Just listen to me. You don't get to wish your way into a breakthrough. You don't get to speak destiny into existence without walking it out in discipline. We serve a God who can do the impossible, but he still expects you to do the work. Faith isn't a shortcut, it's a foundation. And too many of us are waiting on a future that's waiting on our effort. You're not stuck because God hasn't moved. You're stuck because you haven't. Your future doesn't respond to fantasies. It responds to faith in motion. So if you're tired of cycling through the same year over and over again, it's time to look at what you're putting in, because baby girl, your effort is the seed. Your effort is the soil. Your effort is the evidence that you believe what he said. This isn't about being perfect. This is about being present in the work. Let's talk about it. God gives vision, but effort brings manifestation. You can be called, chosen, anointed, and appointed, but none of that overrides your responsibility to put in the work. God will show you the mountain, but he's not carrying you to the top. You still have to climb. And too many of us are standing at the bottom praying for the view without being willing to put in the steps. You saw the dream, you heard the prophecy, you felt the confirmation. But none of it will come alive if you don't move. Vision without effort is just a fantasy. It's potential with no power. Effort is not a backup plan. It's part of God's process. When he gives you vision, he's showing you what could be, but your effort is what determines what will be. The vision shows you the destination, but effort determines whether or not you arrive. God gave Noah the blueprint, but Noah, let's go back to the word. James said, faith without works is dead. Not weak, not delayed, dead. That means it has no pulse, no life, no power. A faith that doesn't push you into motion isn't biblical faith. It's fantasy. Real faith is gritty. It rolls up its sleeves. It keeps showing up when nothing is changing. It fights through disappointment, through confusion, through silence. It says, even if I don't see the fruit yet, I'm planting the seed anyway. That's the kind of faith God honors. That's the kind of faith that shifts futures. Good intentions don't change lives. Effort does. We have people who love the idea of purpose but hate the price of purpose. They want the testimony, but not the test. They want the blessing, but not the building. And somewhere along the way, we forgot that there's no such thing as a harvest without a hustle. You can believe all you want for a new season, but if you're not stewarding the one you're in, then your belief is cosmetic. It's surface level. It sounds good, but it produces nothing. And let's be real. Sometimes we hide behind spiritual language as a way to avoid responsibility. We say things like, I'm waiting on God, when the truth is God is waiting on us. We say, if it's his will, it'll happen, when he's already given us the instruction and is looking for us to follow through. God doesn't play hide and seek with purpose. He reveals, then expects obedience. That obedience is proven in your effort, not in your hype, not in your hashtags, in your consistency. Effort doesn't mean perfection. Effort doesn't mean getting it right every time. Effort means you're committed to walking even when the path is unclear. It means you show up with what you have, not what you wish you had. It means you take the step, even if it's wobbly, even if it's small, even if it's scary, because faith isn't just about believing in what God can do. It's about being willing to move like he's already doing it. Let's talk about the woman with the issue of blood. She believed healing was possible, but she didn't just sit in her house and pray. She moved. She fought through the crowd. She reached out. She risked rejection. She had faith, yes, but her effort was what positioned her for the miracle. Or what about the 4 men who carried their friend to Jesus? Faith was the motivation, but it was effort that tore the roof open. If they had stayed at the door and said, it's too crowded, their friend would have never walked again. That's the difference. Effort says, I'm going to find a way because I believe. There is one. Effort makes room for the supernatural. It carves out space for the divine. It says, I can't control the outcome, but I can control my obedience. And that obedience, that movement, that stretching, that's the space where God breathes. Too many of us are asking God to do what we won't even begin. We want him to fund the business, but we won't write the plan. We want him to bless our bodies, but we won't change our habits. We want him to fix our relationship, but we won't confront the hard truths. That's not faith. That's entitlement in spiritual clothing. Faith invites God in, but effort sets the table. Effort says, Lord, I've done my part, now do what only you can do. And it's important to understand, faith plus effort doesn't mean instant results. Effort doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it's invisible, sometimes it's repetitive, sometimes it feels thankless. But that's when you know it's real. When you keep pushing even though nobody's watching. When you keep giving even when you feel empty. When you keep showing up even when you're uncertain. That's the kind of movement that pleases God. Not flashy, not loud, but faithful. Sis, don't let a lack of results make you believe your effort doesn't matter. It matters. It's shifting something. You may not see it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. Seeds grow underground before they break the surface. Roots form before fruits show up. God is watching the way you plow, the way you plant, the way you press on, and he rewards that. He rewards effort done in faith. And don't be fooled into thinking effort is only for big dramatic moments. Effort is also making the choice to pray instead of panic. To log off social media and lock into scripture, to get up after failure and try again, to make the phone call, to apply one more time, to open the notebook and write one more line. It's the daily yes, the quiet yes, the weary yes, the inconvenient yes. That's what builds a life of purpose. The enemy isn't intimidated by your faith talk. He's not worried about what you say you believe. He's worried when you start living like you believe it. That's why he attacks your momentum. That's why he whispers, what's the point? That's why he tries to keep you distracted, discouraged, and disorganized. Because he knows your effort is prophetic. Your movement is ministry. Your consistency is a weapon. Effort is how you tell God you're serious. It's how you say, Lord, I trust you enough to move even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when I don't understand. And God meets you in that. Not always with immediate results, but always with presence, with strength, with grace, with guidance. You will never give God effort and get emptiness in return. So ask yourself, are you actually moving in faith? Or are you just thinking about moving? Are you acting on the word or just collecting it? Are you building what God showed you or just admiring the blueprint? Your future is waiting on your effort. Your next level is tied to your grind. Not in striving for approval, but in walking out the assignment. Not to impress, but to obey. Not for perfection, but to honor the one who gave you the vision in the first place. The grind is sacred when it's tied to calling. We live in a culture that either glamorizes hustle or demonizes it. Either you're grinding for validation, burning yourself out to prove your worth, or you're told to rest so much that you forget the mandate on your life. But sis, let me tell you something real. The grind isn't the problem. It's the motive behind it. When your grind is tied to your ego, it's exhausting. But when your grind is tied to your calling, it becomes sacred. It becomes an act of worship. It becomes holy. The enemy doesn't care if you work hard. He just wants to make sure your hard work leads you away from God. He'll let you stay busy chasing money, chasing clout, chasing recognition. But the moment you decide that your grind is going to be rooted in purpose, submitted to God and directed by vision, now you're a threat. That's why the resistance hits harder when you're on divine assignment. That's why the pressure intensifies when you start walking in alignment, because your grind, when surrendered, is a weapon. See, grinding for the wrong reasons will always leave you empty. It'll look full on the outside, full schedule, full inbox, full calendar, but your soul will feel starved. That's what happens when you work for applause, when you hustle to be seen, when you chase platforms instead of purpose. But when your grind is connected to calling, it may still be hard, but it'll also be fulfilling. You'll be tired in your body, but full in your spirit. You'll go to bed worn out, but wake up with purpose. Because you know that your work is not in vain. God is not allergic to effort. He's not offended by discipline. In fact, scripture says, whatever you do, do it unto the Lord. That means your grind can be sacred if it's done with the right heart. The early church grew because of grit. Paul preached while in chains. Jesus ministered while exhausted. Ruth gleaned in the fields. Nehemiah rebuilt a wall. Nobody floated into destiny. They worked, they sacrificed, they pushed. But what made the grind holy was the posture. Obedience, not obsession. Let's talk about posture, because this is where a lot of us get stuck. It's easy to slip into hustle mode and forget the why behind the work. When your posture shifts from serving God to proving something to people, that's when the grind gets toxic. You'll start saying yes to everything just to feel important. You'll start neglecting what matters because you're chasing what's loud. You'll confuse busy with blessed. But when your grind is sacred, your yes has discernment. You don't work to impress, you work to obey. There's a quiet kind of grind that nobody sees. The kind where you're up before the sun praying over your business. The kind where you study late because you know there's a word God wants to birth through you. The kind where you serve faithfully even when no one says thank you. That grind, that's holy. That's not driven by ambition, it's driven by assignment. You don't need to announce it, heaven already sees it. And God promises that what you do in secret, He will reward in the open. One thing I've learned is that sacred grind doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes you're building without the full blueprint. Sometimes you're moving with limited instructions. Sometimes you're doing the last thing God told you with no updates, but you grind anyway. Not because you understand everything, but because you trust the one who assigned it to you. That's where faith shows up. That's where maturity kicks in. When you choose consistency over convenience, when you keep digging even when it's dark, let's be honest, grind is hard. Had to build. God gave Joseph the dream, but Joseph had to serve, interpret, endure, and rise. God gave David the anointing, but David still had to fight, flee, and wait. In every story, effort wasn't an option. It was obedience. Effort is obedience in motion. Some of y'all are praying for results you haven't labored for. You want impact without investment. You want platform without preparation. You want success without sacrifice. But baby girl, God is not obligated to bless what you're not willing to build. He doesn't multiply laziness. He multiplies effort. Remember the parable of the talents. The master didn't reward the one who played it safe. He rewarded the ones who worked what they were given. The one who buried the gift was called wicked, not because he sinned, but because he didn't try. God honors effort. We have glamorized arrival and demonized process. We want the crown without the crushing. We want the oil without the press. But God uses effort to shape you for what He's shown you. The steps matter. The sweat matters. The season of not yet matters. You're being trained in the trial. You're being sharpened in the slow. And it's in those quiet moments when no one's clapping, no one's looking, no one's cheering, that your effort speaks the loudest. That's where heaven leans in. That's where God sees if you're ready, because here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You rise to the level of your discipline. You're not going to drift into your calling. You have to drive. You have to dig. You have to decide that what God showed you is worth every late night, every early morning, every uncomfortable yes. Vision is costly. It will demand your energy, your focus, your endurance. And the only way to honor it is through effort. Some of you are tired because you've been busy but not effective. You've been moving but not building. You've been planning but not producing. And effort is not about exhaustion, it's about intention. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing the right things with consistency and grit. Don't confuse activity for progress. Real effort is targeted, it's strategic, it's rooted in obedience, and it's sustained by conviction, not convenience. Effort also exposes your level of belief. If you really believed what God said about you, you'd be working like it's already done. Not working in fear, not working to prove, but working because you believe. You don't have time to entertain doubt when you've got a vision to build. You don't have time to be cute when the call is critical. If God gave it to you, it's because he trusted you to bring it forth. And effort is how you show him he was right to choose you. But here's the tension. Effort often feels unrewarded. You'll be putting in the work and seeing no fruit. You'll be consistent and still feel invisible. But you have to remember, God sees effort before anyone else does. He rewards in secret before he reveals in public. Just because you're not being seen doesn't mean you're not being shaped. That effort is working in places your eyes can't reach yet. That effort is watering the seed. And in due season, it will grow. If you don't faint, we love to shout about harvest, but nobody wants to talk about plowing. Plowing is hard. It's dirty. It's repetitive. It feels like nothing's changing. But every push, every grind, every tear you sow is a declaration that you're not giving up on what God spoke. And heaven takes note of that. Heaven honors that kind of fight, that kind of faithfulness. You're not just working, you're worshiping. Because every time you push through when you want to quit, you're telling God, I still believe. Let's also talk about fear. Fear loves to disguise itself as perfectionism, as hesitation, as just waiting for the right time. But really, it's a refusal to try because failure feels threatening. Sis, failure is not the opposite of faith. It's part of the journey. You will make mistakes. You will fall short, but that's not a reason to stop. That's a reason to press harder. Because God doesn't use perfect people. He uses persistent ones. Effort is how you tell fear it doesn't get the final word. And don't underestimate the power of small effort. The little steps matter. The 5 minutes of focus matter. The chapter you write today, the phone call you make, the prayer you whisper between tears. It all matters. Stop waiting to make a big move and start making consistent moves. Because momentum is built one choice at a time. And small effort, stacked daily, leads to supernatural outcomes. Don't despise the drip, honor the flow. You've got to stop looking for magic and start committing to movement. Stop idolizing ease and start embracing execution. Your effort is the altar where God meets your willingness. It's where heaven breathes on what you've built. So keep building even when it's slow. Keep sowing even when it's silent. Keep pushing even when it's painful. Because that effort is prophetic. That effort is warfare. That effort is preparing you for the fulfillment of every word God spoke over your life. Faith without effort is just good intention. We can say we believe God all day long, but if our hands are empty, our calendars are blank, and our feet haven't moved, then we're just speaking noise. Faith is not a feeling. It's not goosebumps or pretty journal entries or reposted scriptures. Faith is movement. Faith is the action that proves the belief. You can say you trust God, but if you're not putting in the work, then what you're really saying is, God, I like what you said, but I'm not willing to partner with it. This is where many of us get stuck. We mistake verbal agreement for spiritual obedience. We nod our heads during sermons. We cry at the altar. We write down everything in our journals. But then Monday comes and there's no action. We wait, we stall, we rationalize. We say we're seeking clarity, but we're really just avoiding commitment. And here's the hard truth. Heaven doesn't move on good intentions. Heaven moves on effort rooted in faith. It's not what you hope for, it's what you build toward that defines your life. Sacred or not, it requires endurance. And that's why it has to be tied to calling. Because calling gives context to the pressure. Calling reminds you that this isn't just about money or milestones. This is about kingdom. This is about legacy. This is about breaking cycles. This is about being the first in your family to say the struggle stops here. When your grind is connected to that kind of purpose, quitting stops being an option. You may cry, but you won't stop. You may pause, but you won't give up because the work is bigger than you. And here's the beautiful part. When you treat your grind as sacred, God multiplies what you build. He doesn't just bless the outcome, he blesses the effort. He breathes on the little and makes it much because they're working without God. But when you invite him into the process, the grind becomes grace-filled. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it means it's anointed, it's sustained, it's protected because God doesn't abandon what he's called. Some of y'all are tired because you've been grinding outside of grace. You've been working for a vision God never gave you. You've been chasing opportunities he never approved, and now you're frustrated, wondering why it feels so heavy. The answer isn't to stop grinding, it's to realign your grind. Bring it back to the altar. Ask God, what did you actually call me to do? Because once you get clear on that, you'll find a flow. Not an easy one, but a divine one. You've got to believe that the grind matters even when no one's watching, even when it's lonely, even when people are getting ahead doing things the fast way. You've got to trust that. Walk in authority without compromise. Discipline isn't glamorous, and that's why it's so powerful. Because when you choose to be consistent without applause, when you choose integrity without an audience, you're saying to heaven, I'm serious about what you've entrusted to me. And heaven takes that seriously. The oil that you want to carry, it doesn't come from charisma. It comes from crushing. It comes from commitment. It comes from doing the hard thing when no one is clapping. We often think of discipline as restriction, as saying no to things we want, but real discipline is about saying yes to your higher self. It's about honoring who God is calling you to become, not just who you are today. It's saying, I may want to sleep in, but I'm going to rise and pray because my future depends on my consistency. It's saying, I may feel discouraged, but I'm going to show up for the assignment anyway because I trust what God put inside me. Discipline isn't about never falling off. It's about getting back up when you do. It's about building rhythm so strong that even when your feelings shift, your habits keep you anchored. That's why discipline is so dangerous to the enemy. Because he can't control a woman who's mastered herself. He can't manipulate someone who's trained their soul to follow spirit over emotion. He can distract you, but he can't derail you because your discipline becomes your defense. Think about the people you admire, the ones walking in purpose, flowing in peace, moving with power. Their life didn't get there by accident. Behind every anointed moment is an unseen moment. Behind every sermon, every book, every breakthrough is a pattern of private discipline. That discipline built the capacity to carry the weight. Because purpose is heavy, and if you're not disciplined, you'll sabotage what you prayed for when you finally get it. You don't prepare for the future when you arrive at it. You prepare by how you live today, your choices, your patterns, your stewardship. These things are setting the table for your next. You don't rise to the level of your vision. You fall to the level of your discipline. That's why it matters so much. That's why the Holy Spirit will keep tugging at you to shut certain things down. That's why he'll convict you about your time, your focus, your appetite, because he sees what's ahead and knows that your future demands more from you now. And let's be clear, discipline isn't about legalism. It's not about doing things just to say you did them. It's about forming a partnership with the Holy Spirit that says, I want to live in alignment with what you've spoken. It's about agreeing with heaven, not just in word, but in action. It's about saying, Lord, if you've called me to this, I am going to train like it. I am going to think like it. I'm going to move like it. Even when you don't feel it. Even when nobody else is. There's a discipline of the mind where you refuse to let negative thoughts set up camp in your spirit. There's a discipline of the mouth where you guard your words because you know life and death are in the tongue. There's a discipline of the body where you steward your temple because you understand longevity matters in purpose. There's a discipline of relationships where you stop entertaining distractions disguised as companionship. All of these forms of discipline become spiritual warfare. Because when you master the small things, the enemy loses ground. We love to pray for overflow, for expansion, for elevation. But what if I told you that God won't elevate you beyond the level of your character? That he won't pour more oil into a vessel that leaks because of lack of discipline. He loves you too much to give you something that would destroy you. So he trains you, not through ease, but through consistency. Not through height, but through hiddenness. That's where you develop the strength to sustain what's coming. Some of us are waiting on God to move, but God is waiting on us to grow. To build the muscle of discipline so that when the opportunity comes, we don't waste it. So that when the platform shows up, our identity is rooted. So that when the pressure hits, our foundation doesn't crack. Because the future you want won't just require faith. It will require follow through. Not a one-time burst of energy, but a long-term pattern of obedience. You can't expect destiny if you're only committed when it's convenient. You can't walk in divine power and still be enslaved to your mood. You've got to be bigger than your feelings, stronger than your excuses, more committed to your assignment than your comfort. And that takes discipline. Daily, repeatedly, relentlessly. Discipline is what gives you spiritual authority. It sharpens your discernment. It deepens your intimacy with God. It trains your soul to listen, to yield, to obey. And in that place, you start to flow in ways you never imagined. Not because you're striving, but because you're aligned. Because your lifestyle matches your prayer life. Because your habits are speaking the same language as your faith. So ask yourself, what kind of life are your daily choices building? What kind of future are you preparing for? Are you waiting for breakthrough, or are you becoming the kind of person who can sustain it? Discipline today. It may not feel exciting, but it's divine, it's holy, it's necessary. Because your destiny won't be built in one big moment. It'll be built in every small decision where you chose obedience over ease, purpose over pleasure, growth over gratification. Sacrifice is the currency of progress. It's a word many shy away from because it sounds like loss, like giving up something good, like pain. But if you want to move forward, if you want to live out your calling, sacrifice becomes your investment. It's the cost you pay for your future. And it's not about deprivation, it's about priority. It's about what you choose to exchange today so that your tomorrow looks different. The question is, are you willing to pay that price? Sacrifice is not always dramatic. It's often quiet and consistent. It's turning down the party to study. It's choosing the hard work over the easy win. It's saying no to distraction so you can say yes to destiny. It's waking up early when your body screams for rest. It's pushing through rejection when your heart aches for acceptance. Those moments build character and create momentum, even when it feels like you're just losing. Because sacrifice isn't loss, it's investment with faith. Look at Jesus, ultimate example of sacrifice. He gave up heaven to come to earth. He laid down glory to walk among us. He sacrificed comfort, safety, and life itself so that we could have life abundantly. His sacrifice was costly, but it was intentional and purposeful. And that's the mindset we need. Sacrifice is not punishment. It's partnership with God's plan. When you give up something now, you're partnering with the future God is building for you. Many times, the reason we don't want to sacrifice is because we don't fully believe in the reward. We get stuck in the now, thinking, why should I give this up if I might not get anything back? But faith doesn't look at what's lost. It looks at what's gained. It trusts that God's promises are real and that every seed sown in sacrifice will yield a harvest. It understands that sometimes you have to walk through the fire to get to the gold. Sacrifice also requires courage. It's not easy to let go of comfort or security, especially when you don't see what's on the other side. But courage is faith in motion. It's saying, I don't know all the details, but I trust the one who does. It's stepping out of your comfort zone, knowing that God's plan is bigger than your fears. And when you embrace that courage, you position yourself for breakthroughs that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Sacrifice refines you. It shapes your character and reveals what matters most. It forces you to prioritize what's eternal over what's temporary. It's the filter that separates the casual from the committed, the dreamers from the doers. Because only those willing to give something up will receive something greater. It's the paradox of progress. Sometimes you have to lose to gain, let go to receive, and give away to grow. The enemy will always try to convince you that sacrifice is unfair or unnecessary. He'll whisper that you deserve ease, that your pain isn't worth it, that you should settle for less. But God's truth counters that lie every time. God says, no sacrifice is too great when you're following me. He says, I'm with you in the struggle. He says, your sacrifice will not be in vain. And when you hold on to that truth, you can endure the hardest seasons with hope. Remember, sacrifice is also about stewardship. It's about managing what God has given you wisely, even if it means saying no to good things so you can say yes to best things. It's about discerning where to invest your time, energy, and resources so that you don't scatter your power, but concentrate it on your purpose. True sacrifice is strategic, not just painful. It's intentional and informed by God's leading. Sacrifice is the secret to breakthrough. It's what separates those who talk about their dreams from those who live them. It's what builds empires, changes communities, and transforms generations. When you embrace sacrifice as your currency, you start to see your challenges as opportunities, your losses as gains, and your pain as preparation. You realize that every sacrifice is actually a step closer to your destiny. So ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice for the future God has promised you? What comfort will you exchange for growth? What easy choices will you replace with intentional ones? Because your progress depends on it. Your breakthrough demands it, and your destiny requires it. Sacrifice isn't just a cost, it's a covenant with your future self. Your mindset is the architect of your reality. What you believe about yourself, your potential, and your future shapes the life you build. You can have all the resources, all the talent, and all the opportunities in the world, but without the right mindset, they will never fully manifest into your destiny. Your mind is the battlefield where victory is won or lost. If you want to change your future, you must first renew your mind. The Bible tells us in Romans 12:2, not to conform to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. This is not a suggestion, it's a command that reveals the power of mindset in transformation. Our thoughts are powerful. They dictate how we respond to challenges, how we see setbacks, and how we pursue goals. When your mind is aligned with God's truth, it creates a foundation that is unshakable, no matter what storms come your way. One of the greatest enemies of a breakthrough mindset is doubt. Doubt whispers lies like, you're not enough. You don't have what it takes, or you'll never make it. These lies can paralyze you, keeping you stuck in fear and hesitation. But here's the truth. You are enough because God made you. Your potential isn't measured by your past failures or current circumstances, but by the power of God working through you. When you reject doubt and embrace faith, you begin to reprogram your mind for success. Your mindset also controls how you handle failure. Failure is inevitable on the road to success, but the difference is how you see it. A mindset rooted in faith sees failure as a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. It's an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to get stronger every setback. The most successful people are not those who never failed, but those who refuse to let failure define them. Gratitude is a mindset game changer. When you cultivate a heart of gratitude, you shift your focus from what you lack to what you have. Gratitude rewires your brain to notice blessings instead of burdens. It fuels hope and joy even in difficult seasons. A grateful mind attracts more to be grateful for, creating a cycle of positivity that propels you forward. Start each day listing what you're thankful for and watch how your mindset begins to transform. Sacred grind is building something that shortcuts never could. It's building character, it's building capacity, it's building credibility. It's doing more in you than it's doing for you. And when it's time, God will elevate what you've built. In the dark, sacred grind is slow sometimes. It's methodical, it's deliberate. You'll feel like everyone's moving faster. But fast doesn't mean faithful. God is more concerned with your roots than your reach. Because if your reach outpaces your roots, the blessing will crush you. So he slows you down, not to punish, but to prepare. He teaches you how to grind with integrity, how to build with honor, how to serve without being seen. That's sacred. Don't despise your season of hidden work. That's where sacred grind matures you. That's where you learn discipline. That's where you develop excellence. That's where you decide, I'm not working for them. I'm working for him. That one shift will change how you show up. You won't cut corners. You won't burn bridges. You won't need validation. You'll grind with grace, with focus, with joy. And let's be real, grind will test your character. It'll expose what's still in you. Pride, fear, comparison. When your effort is sacred, you bring those things to God. Instead of letting them lead you, you say, Lord, I'm grinding, but I still need you to purify me. Don't let me build something big if my spirit's still broken. Because sacred grind isn't just about what you do, it's about who you're becoming while you do it. You've got to remember why you started. Not for clout, not for applause, but because there was a fire in your spirit, a divine burden, a call that wouldn't let you sleep. That's the kind of grind you protect. That's the kind of grind you steward. You cover it in prayer. You surround it with boundaries. You guard it from distractions because it's holy. Not perfect, not easy, but holy. Your discipline today is the seed for your destiny tomorrow. What you do in private is prophesying the kind of life you'll live in public. We talk a lot about favor, about breakthrough, about walking into our next season, but let's tell the truth. Destiny isn't just something you walk into. It's something you prepare for, and that preparation happens in the mundane, in the quiet, in the ordinary choices you make every single day. Destiny doesn't just show up. It's built. It's cultivated. And discipline is the tool. We want the promise, but many of us are ignoring the process. We want the results, but we resist the routines. But what if I told you that God isn't just looking at your dreams? He's watching your habits. He's watching how you steward your morning. He's watching how you use your voice. He's watching what you do when no one is watching you. Because that's where true discipline shows up. Not when the lights are on, but when you feel unseen, unmotivated, and uncertain. and still choose obedience. There's a story in Daniel that we often overlook when we talk about discipline. Before the lion's den, before the dreams interpreted, Daniel was a man who simply had a rhythm. 3 times a day he prayed, not because it was trendy, not because it guaranteed a blessing, but because he had resolved in his spirit that his relationship with God was worth more than his comfort. And that kind of discipline, it built a legacy. It sustained him when the pressure came. It prepared him to